And we are saddened to report the sudden death of Super Bowl champion Arthur Jones, Ravens' former defensive end and the brother of former NFL star Chandler Jones.
Arthur Jones passed away suddenly on October 3rd, 2025. At first, everyone believed it was due to natural causes, but things aren't adding up. Now, a nurse who was with him in his final moments has come forward, revealing shocking details about that night. Was Arthur killed, or did something darker happen behind those hospital doors? Let's get into it. The rise of a champion. On October 3rd, 2025, the sports world was shaken by devastating news. Arthur Jones III, a former NFL defensive tackle who had once stood triumphant as a Super Bowl champion, had suddenly passed away at just 39 years old. The announcement sent shockwaves through football communities across America, leaving fans, teammates, and an entire generation of athletes mourning the loss of a man who had seemed larger than life itself. But before we delve into the circumstances surrounding his tragic passing, we need to understand who Arthur Jones really was. Not just as an athlete, but as a person, a brother, a mentor, and a champion whose story encompasses far more than what happened on any football field. Arthur Jones III was born on June 3rd, 1986, in Rochester, New York, into a household that would eventually become synonymous with athletic excellence and sporting achievement. Growing up in what family members affectionately called Jonesville, Arthur was the eldest of three brothers who would all go on to achieve remarkable success in professional sports. But in those early days in Rochester, before the championships and the glory, they were just three boys learning what it meant to compete, to fight for each other, and to never back down from a challenge.
Now, when you're watching your brother fight, what's going through your head? Do you get nervous, or are you like,
man, first feeling? I mean, I get more nervous than that. I can play football games all day. I can do it in my sleep. But when my brother's out there in the octagon, man, I get the worst bubble guts, sweats. I'm a nervous wreck. You know, and the day, he's been successful for a long time, but in the day, I can't control what happens when that cage lock. And me being an older brother, my mom always taught us, mom and dad. My mom was really the bully of the family. That's where John get it from. But my mom always taught us, one fight, we all fight. So we jumped a lot of people growing up, me and my brother. And that is one of the things. That's how we were raised.
In 1995, the Jones family relocated to Endicott, New York, where Arthur's father served as a pastor. This move would prove pivotal in shaping the young athlete's character and competitive drive. At Union Endicott High School, Arthur didn't just play football, he dominated in multiple disciplines, showing the versatility and raw physical power that would define his career. He became a two-time New York State wrestling champion in the heavyweight division, victories that honed not just his strength, but his technique, his discipline, and his understanding of one-on-one combat that would serve him well on the football field. The wrestling background gave Arthur something special, an intimate understanding of leverage, of using an opponent's weight against them, of the mental fortitude required to face someone across from you with nothing but your skill and determination to rely upon. These weren't just matches, they were battles that forged his competitive spirit in ways that would resonate throughout his entire athletic career. When Arthur arrived at Syracuse University in 2006, he brought with him all that accumulated experience, all that hunger to prove himself on an even bigger stage, and prove himself he did in spectacular fashion. Over his college career from 2006 to 2009, Arthur would establish himself as one of the most dominant interior defensive linemen in the Syracuse history, setting a school record with 38.5 tackles for loss, a remarkable achievement that showcased not just his physical abilities, but his football intelligence, his ability to read plays, to anticipate, to be in the right place at the right moment to disrupt the opposing offense's plans. His performance earned him first-team All-Big East honors in both his junior and senior years, recognition that put him on the radar of NFL scouts across the country. But for those who watched him play week after week, who saw the relentless motor, the never-quit attitude, the infectious energy he brought to every snap, they knew Arthur Jones was destined for something special at the professional level.
Combine and everything like that, and he asked me, how do I know I'm not injury prone? All kinds of questions, and he had me sweat a little bit. It felt like a little interrogation room, but it was a fun experience, and we hit it off hard, and I was just waiting to hear my name called.
In 2010, the Baltimore Ravens selected Arthur Jones in the 5th round, 157th overall, in that year's NFL draft. For Arthur, it was the culmination of years of dedication, of countless hours in the weight room, of film study, of pushing his body and mind to their absolute limits. When that phone call came, when he heard his name announced as a Baltimore Raven, it represented not just his personal achievement, but validation of everything his family had instilled in him about hard work and perseverance.
And when I got that phone call, is had the biggest smile in my life on my face, so I'm excited.
When you're sitting with Ozzie, do you see Ozzie the executive of the Ravens, or do you see Ozzie the Hall of Fame football player?
The Hall of Fame football player.
Really?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So does that add intimidation to it, to some of the other interviews where you're not getting interviewed by a Hall of Famer?
Of course it does.
The Ravens organization welcomed Arthur with open arms, and he quickly found himself surrounded by legends of the game. Playing alongside Ray Lewis, learning from veterans, being coached by John Harbaugh, these weren't just career opportunities, they were masterclasses in what it meant to be a professional, to approach the game with the right mindset, to understand that talent alone wasn't enough without dedication and the right mentality.
Have you had your first interaction with Ray Lewis?
Oh yeah, all the guys, the whole defense. You know, that's one thing about the Baltimore Ravens organization. Those guys are they're great. They're great professionals. They open their arms up to me, and it wasn't like some organizations that they treat the rookies pretty bad. But those guys, they're there to help me and help me to grow as an athlete.
Over his first 4 seasons with Baltimore from 2010 to 2013, Arthur established himself as a reliable rotational player on one of the NFL's most formidable defenses. His career statistics, 173 total tackles, 10 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles over 61 games, tell only part of the story. What the numbers don't capture is the energy he brought to the locker room, the way his teammates gravitated toward his positive attitude, or how he made everyone around him better simply by being present. But Arthur's defining moment, the achievement that would cement his legacy in NFL history, came on February 3rd, 2013, in New Orleans, Louisiana, at Super Bowl X7. The Baltimore Ravens faced the San Francisco 49ers in what would become one of the most memorable championship games in recent memory, and Arthur Jones was about to have the game of his life.
And today we're joined by Arthur Jones, now with the Indianapolis Colts. He had a fumble recovery as well as 2 sacks in the Super Bowl. How did that feel?
Oh, it was amazing. Really one of the best days of my life. Just, Ray Lewis always talk about feeling that confetti fall. And we used to laugh when he always just talk about it. I cry like a baby. When you feel it, it's like the first time you feel snow. It's no better feeling.
In that Super Bowl, Arthur recorded a sack on 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick, a play that came just moments before the infamous Superdome power outage that would temporarily halt the game. But more importantly, he also recovered a crucial fumble, contributing directly to the Ravens' 34-31 victory. As confetti fell from the ceiling and his teammates celebrated around him, Arthur Jones stood as a world champion, having reached the absolute pinnacle of his profession.
You grow up watching the sport, and that's football. Every football player, common goal, you want to win a Super Bowl. And when you feel it, you've accomplished the highest level in football. It's no better feeling. It's definitely a blessing, something that'll never be forgotten, and something that it pushes me to get to that level again. And I feel like being in Indianapolis, I have the perfect opportunity with the young gunslinger Andrew Luck, a guy who would take over games, and me bringing my presence on defense. I feel like I'm a perfect piece of the puzzle.
The Super Bowl victory represented more than just a championship ring. It was validation of Arthur's journey from Rochester to Endicott to Syracuse to the NFL. It was proof that the sacrifices, the grinding, the dedication to his craft had all been worth it. And as he stood there, a champion at 26 years old, the future seemed limitless. Trials, tribulations, and the reality of professional sports. Following his Super Bowl triumph, Arthur Jones found himself at a crossroads that many successful NFL players face, the opportunity to cash in on his success with a lucrative contract. In March 2014, the Indianapolis Colts signed Arthur to a 5-year, $33 million deal, a contract that represented not just financial security, but recognition of his value as a defensive lineman who had proven himself on football's biggest stage. The move to Indianapolis seemed perfect on paper. The Colts had a young, dynamic quarterback in Andrew Luck, and were building a team designed to compete for championships. Arthur saw it as his chance to be a cornerstone piece, to help build something special, to prove that his Super Bowl performance wasn't a fluke, but rather a preview of sustained excellence.
Who else was a great teammate to have when you were with the Ravens?
Terrell Suggs.
Really?
Yeah, by default.
T-Sizzle?
By default.
Wow.
You know, me coming in as a rookie, my locker is, they really don't care. They'll put you next to anyone. So I was by a lot of offensive players, and once I started getting up in ranks and whatnot, It moved me next to Terrell.
But professional football is an unforgiving business, and the path from that signing to what would ultimately be a disappointing tenure in Indianapolis was paved with injuries and setbacks that no amount of willpower or positive attitude could overcome. In his first season with the Colts, Arthur managed to appear in only 9 games, missing 7 due to an ankle injury. He recorded just 1.5 sacks and 23 tackles, numbers that fell far short of expectations for someone earning his salary. Then came 2015, and with it, devastation. A preseason ankle injury, ironically to his opposite ankle, would cost Arthur the entire season. For a professional athlete, missing an entire year isn't just about the games, it's about the conditioning, the timing, the rhythm of the sport. It's about watching helplessly from the sidelines as your teammates battle without you, about the frustration of rehabilitation, about wondering if your body will ever feel the same again. The injuries took a toll not just physically, but financially for the organization. By February 2016, Sporting News had labeled Arthur's contract the Colts' absolute worst contract, noting that he had started 3 games for the Colts while missing 23 due to injury while earning $16 million. For fans who had hoped to see the Super Bowl champion they'd signed, it was disappointing. For Arthur, it must have been agonizing, but the challenges weren't over. On July 22, 2016, the NFL announced that Arthur would be suspended for the first 4 games of the season for violating the league's performance-enhancing drugs policy. The news hit like a thunderbolt, coming at a time when Arthur desperately needed a clean slate to prove his worth to the organization that had invested so heavily in him. Arthur took full responsibility for the violation. In a public statement, he said, "I apologize to the organization, more importantly my teammates and the fans. It's a small thing, but I'm going to get through it." He explained that he had failed to properly vet a supplement's ingredients, a mistake that would cost him not just games but reputation. The specific banned substance was never publicly disclosed, but under NFL policy, this first-time violation resulted in the 4-game suspension. The timing was particularly unfortunate. His brother Jon Jones was simultaneously dealing with his own drug test failures in the UFC, leading to speculation about patterns within the Jones family. But those who knew Arthur understood this wasn't about a systematic approach to performance enhancement. It was about a desperate attempt to recover from injuries, to get his body back to where it needed to be, and a costly lapse in judgment about what he was putting into his system. Following the suspension, the Colts restructured Arthur's contract in spring 2016, reducing his salary, a clear indication that the relationship between player and team was strained. Then, in December 2016, another setback, a groin injury that placed him on injured reserve, effectively ending his season after limited contributions. By March 2017, the Colts released Arthur Jones, ending a tenure that had promised so much but delivered so little through no real fault of his own beyond the supplement issue. Injuries are part of football, an occupational hazard that can derail even the most promising careers. For Arthur, who had worked so hard to reach the NFL, who had tasted championship glory, the Indianapolis chapter must have felt like a cruel twist of fate. He would catch on with the Washington Redskins for the 2017 season, his final year in the NFL, but it was clear that his body had taken too much punishment. At just 31 years old, Arthur Jones retired from professional football, ending a 7-year career that had included incredible highs and frustrating lows.
You talked about your guaranteed money with the Indianapolis Colts. How does that feel now that you're making publicly a lot of money? And I'm sure you have people coming at you left and right.
Absolutely. It's a great situation to have, but it's bittersweet. It feels good to be financially stable and knowing that my family will be taken care of for the rest of their life. But at the end of the day, I've lost a lot of friends, people who I thought was very close to me.
But Arthur's story was about more than football statistics and contract negotiations. He came from a family that would become one of the most famous in all of sports, not always for the right reasons. His younger brother, John Bones Jones, would become a former UFC heavyweight champion, widely considered one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. But John's career was marred by legal troubles and substance abuse issues. His other brother, Chandler Jones, became a 4-time Pro Bowl NFL player who won a Super Bowl with the New England Patriots. But Chandler too would face his own well-documented struggles. Despite the family's troubles making headlines, Arthur himself largely avoided the controversies that plagued his brothers. Beyond the PED suspension and one verbal altercation, an incident at UFC 214 weigh-ins in 2017, where he exchanged words with members of Daniel Cormier's team who were taunting him about his brother John. Arthur Arthur maintained a clean record. The confrontation, captured on video, showed Arthur defending his brother's honor, calling Cormier a paper champ before the situation de-escalated. It was family loyalty, pure and simple, the same instinct that had been drilled into all three brothers from childhood. But there was another battle Arthur was fighting, one that most people didn't know about, one that would ultimately prove far more dangerous than any opponent he faced on the football field. In 2013, during his time with the Ravens, Arthur dealt with a viral infection near his heart, a serious medical condition that temporarily sidelined him and raised concerns about fluid buildup and immune system complications. Although he recovered and returned to play, this incident was an early warning sign of the cardiac issues that would shadow the rest of his life. Following his retirement from football, Arthur didn't fade into obscurity. Instead, he channeled his energy into giving back to the communities that had shaped him. He served with the NFL Alumni Upstate New York chapter, mentored student athletes at Syracuse University, and co-owned a fitness facility in Fayetteville, New York. Those who encountered him during these years invariably spoke of his infectious positivity, his genuine interest in helping young athletes avoid the pitfalls he'd experienced, and his unwavering commitment to making a difference.
10 years down the line, what do you want to be known for?
10 years down the line, Arthur Jones wants to be known as a guy who's been a pleasure to have in the locker room, great father, hard worker, and a guy who just loves to have fun with whatever it is in life.
Do you want to mentor younger athletes? Is that what your end goal is?
No way.
No way?
No, I don't want to deal with guys like myself. You know,
No.
it's a headache. Younger athletes are a headache.
But beneath the positive exterior, Arthur was managing a serious health condition. He had an implanted defibrillator, a device designed to monitor his heart and intervene if dangerous rhythms developed. For someone who had spent his entire life as an elite athlete, who had pushed his body to its absolute limits, now depending on a medical device to keep his heart beating properly, must have been a stark reminder of his mortality. A sudden end and a lasting legacy. The morning of October 3rd, 2025 began like any other at Arthur Jones's home in Pompey, New York. But shortly before 11 a.m., his implanted defibrillator activated, automatically alerting his doctor or monitoring service that something was terribly wrong. The device, designed to shock the heart back into normal rhythm when it detects dangerous irregularities, had triggered, a clear indication that Arthur was experiencing a serious cardiac event. Emergency services were immediately dispatched. Fire trucks, ambulances, and police vehicles raced to his home, their sirens cutting through the quiet morning air of the small New York community. But when first responders arrived at the scene, they found Arthur unresponsive. Despite having the most advanced cardiac monitoring technology available, despite the immediate alert that had brought help rushing to his door, it was too late. Arthur Jones was pronounced dead at his home, never making it to a hospital, never having a chance to say goodbye to his loved ones. Authorities confirmed there were no signs of foul play, and out of respect for the family's privacy, no official cause of death was immediately disclosed. But the evidence pointed clearly to what medical professionals would describe as a sudden cardiac event. Arthur's pre-existing heart condition, the same condition that had necessitated the implanted defibrillator, had ultimately claimed his life at just 39 years old.
Pessoal, tivemos uma cena. Estamos, o John Jones está de luto porque o campeão da NFL, o Arthur Jones, irmão de 39 anos do John Jones, morreu e as causas não foram divulgadas, né?
The news spread rapidly through the sports world, and the tributes began pouring in almost immediately. The Baltimore Ravens released a statement from general manager Eric DeCosta that captured the essence of who Arthur had been. "We are terribly saddened to learn of Arthur Jones's sudden passing. His big, bright smile, infectious energy, eternal positivity created a presence that continuously uplifted others, always displaying a love for family, teammates, and friends."
We are saddened to report the sudden death of Super Bowl champion Arthur Jones, Ravens former defensive end and the brother of former NFL star Chandler Jones and former UFC champion Jon Jones. Ravens GM Eric DeCosta released a statement that read in part, "We are terribly saddened to learn of Arthur Jones' sudden passing. His big, bright smile, infectious energy, eternal positivity created a presence that continuously uplifted others, always displaying a love for family, teammates, and friends."
Ravens head coach John Harbaugh added his own remembrance, calling Arthur a source of light in the team, and community praising his love for life, generous spirit, and radiant smile. These weren't just polite corporate statements. They reflected genuine affection and respect for a man who had touched countless lives during his time in Baltimore.
And Marcus, I know that he was a teammate of yours in Baltimore. What can you share about Arthur?
Hannah Hart was Eric DeCosta summed it up. He was a ball of energy, fun, loved being around him. I'll never forget, I was fishing on Lake Louisville when I got a call from Ozzie Newsome about the potential of going and playing for the Ravens. And one of the conversations that I had with Ozzie when I was trying to make the decision whether I was going to retire or go play football, Ozzie was telling me, I got some young guys that I think are really good, and I would love for you to come in along with Chris Canty and be mentors, but also, you know, play and show these guys how to be professionals. And Arthur Jones was one of those guys that was always around me. We always talked, we had fun, we laughed. I just gravitated to him because of his infectious personality.
Syracuse University, where Arthur had established his legacy, mourned the loss of one of its own. Athletic director John Wildhack described him as a tremendous player and even better person, who had continued supporting the program long after his playing days ended. Syracuse football coach Fran Brown echoed these sentiments, emphasizing Arthur's kindness and his ability to uplift everyone around him. Even the UFC community, where Arthur's brother John had achieved legendary status, paid tribute. Conor McGregor called Arthur a friendly giant, and the UFC organization offered official condolences to the Jones family. The outpouring of grief transcended sports boundaries, reflecting the impact Arthur had made not just as an athlete, but as a human being. In the days following Arthur's death, as the shock began to wear off, some began asking difficult questions about athlete health and the physical toll of professional sports. Arthur's case raised awareness about cardiac issues in athletes, particularly those who have pushed their bodies to elite levels. His pre-existing heart condition, while monitored and treated, ultimately proved fatal despite modern medical interventions. Some online discussions speculated about external factors. There were unsubstantiated theories linking his death to COVID-19 vaccines, part of a broader died suddenly narrative that has circulated in anti-vaccine communities. However, these claims lack any credible medical evidence, and Arthur's condition clearly predated widespread COVID-19 vaccination. Medical experts emphasize that heart conditions in athletes can stem from various causes including genetics, previous viral infections, like the one Arthur experienced in 2013, and the intense physical demands of professional sports. For the Jones family, Arthur's death was particularly devastating. His brothers, John and Chandler, who had grown up fighting alongside him, who had learned from his example as the eldest sibling, now faced a world without their protector, their mentor, the brother who had always been there. At the time of writing, John Jones had not yet publicly commented on his brother's passing, the grief perhaps too raw, too immediate for words. In the immediate aftermath of his death, social media platforms filled with tributes from fans who had never met Arthur, but felt they knew him through his play, through his interviews, through the genuine joy he seemed to bring to everything he did. Former teammates shared stories of his kindness, his humor, the way he could light up a locker room just by walking in. Coaches remembered a player who listened, who worked, who never made excuses. Marcus Spears, his former Ravens teammate, shared a particularly moving tribute, reflecting on conversations they'd had over the years and how Arthur had congratulated him on his daughter's achievements, on how they'd kept in touch long after their playing days together ended. These weren't just professional relationships maintained for networking purposes. These were genuine friendships forged in the crucible of professional football and sustained by mutual respect and affection.
And then to go on and play well and get a contract, and we stayed in contact over the years. Every once in a while, he would call me and congratulate me about my daughter. I would tell him his beautiful family and how proud I was of him and all of the things that were transpiring. And it's just one of those moments where it cracks you a little bit, man. And you think about the times that you have with these players and the fun that you have playing football, and then real life hits you in this instance. And I know Arthur has a very supportive family. They were always a close-knit group along with his brother John and Chandler. So I know that there's a lot of support for Arthur's immediate family, his wife and his kids. But I just wanted to send my condolences to his family and also remember my teammate and who became a friend while I was in Baltimore. Rest well, my brother. Will be missed tremendously.
The viral infection he'd suffered in 2013 had been more serious than many realized at the time. While he recovered and returned to play, the condition had required careful monitoring, and at some point after his playing career, the decision was made to implant a defibrillator, a device that would theoretically save his life if his heart rhythm became dangerously irregular. On that October morning, the device did exactly what it was designed to do. It detected a problem, it activated, it sent out an alert, but sometimes even the most advanced medical technology isn't enough. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, despite monitoring and treatment and the wonders of modern medicine, life slips away before anyone can intervene. That's what happened to Arthur Jones, a cardiac event so sudden, so severe, that even with immediate detection and rapid emergency response, there was nothing that could be done. In 39 years, Arthur Jones lived a life that mattered. He achieved what millions dream of but few accomplish: playing in the NFL, winning a Super Bowl, being part of something greater than himself. More importantly, he did it while maintaining his humanity, while staying connected to his roots, while treating people with respect and kindness regardless of their status or position. Rest in peace, Arthur Jones III. June 3rd, 1986, October 3rd, 2025. Super Bowl XC7 champion, Syracuse legend, but more importantly, by all accounts, a genuinely good human being who made the world better simply by being in it. Your smile, your energy, your positivity. These things will be remembered long after the statistics are forgotten. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.